Hello, everyone, and welcome to ELA/Moral Ed for today. This class is going to be just Moral Ed. For English, I was going to show you how to create concrete poetry. I'm going to do that instead in a different lesson that's going to be optional. I just want to keep these two things as separate. Okay, so for moral education, this is a class for term 4, which I mentioned to you guys last time. And really the goal is I want everyone to get E's in this. So I'm trying to think of something that's going to be able to have that happen. Okay, and also really the key thing is to actually do something that's really, really, really useful to you, which is building this toolkit of how to become the best version of you so that you can basically respond in situations and kind of have a bit more response rather than a reaction, which we might later regret possibly. And that's not easy. There's so many times in life where we get annoyed, we get frustrated, we get kind of angry with things, and knowing how to kind of recognize that as the first thing and then be able to kind of okay, just take a moment and then be able to move on in a way that is climbing up, a positive path. And easier said than done, way, way, way easier said than done. So the first thing that we're going to be doing for this task is, or our project, I guess, our building of our toolkit is to be working our way throughout the term through these 4 different components. The first one, taking a moment, the next one, being kind, the next one, showing gratitude, and the next one, bouncing back. So, what we're going to focus on today is taking a moment, which is where we just have ways to just stop and just breathe for a moment, and notice the moment, and then create space for a response that you feel is yep, if I was to be watching the best version of myself, that's what that person would be doing right now. Okay. So, and this is all related to the brain. It's all related to what's actually happening inside of your brain. So whenever we get that feeling of kind of freaking out, or kind of a little bit of anxiety, or a little bit of nervousness in your stomach, or maybe it's showing in sweaty in your hands, maybe it's you just want to kind of hide and run away. All of those things are related to the amygdala in your brain, which is that old part which we learned about, that fight or flight response. So I'm just going to show you guys a video right now, which does a really good job of explaining this.
We all do.
Oh, wait.
Everyone experiences anxiety. You know what anxiety feels like. We all do. Everyone experiences anxiety in some way or another. It's something that connects all of us together. Why we feel anxiety and what it really is, that may surprise you. Without anxiety, we'd all be in serious trouble. As soon as your brain senses you're in danger, a little piece of it, called the amygdala, kicks in. It gets your body ready to react. That could mean fight, run away, or shut down. It's called the fight, flight, or freeze response. This reaction goes back millions of years to our distant animal ancestors. Animals whose amygdalae were more sensitive to danger were more likely to stay alive and off the menu. Over millions of generations, this developed into the system we all know as anxiety. So you see, anxiety itself is not all bad. But when there's no immediate life or death threat, and your amygdala keeps telling your body that you're in danger, that's when anxiety becomes a problem. Your amygdala doesn't know the difference between getting eaten and public speaking or failing a test. Human society has only existed for a relatively short time. It's messy and complicated and confusing, and our amygdalae just haven't had time to catch up. So sometimes, when we're in uncomfortable situations, our brains misread the risk and overreact. Our hearts beat faster and we breathe heavily, pulling more oxygen into our bodies. The muscles in our arms and legs tense up and fill with blood. Our skin perspires to cool us down. This would all be great if we needed to fight or run, but instead, we just feel tense and sweaty. Sometimes our minds go blank and we feel like we can't move or talk. That would be great if we needed to hide. Instead, we just feel stuck. When things trigger our anxiety, sometimes we try to avoid them, like our ancestors avoiding a predator. But that can cause problems when those triggers are important parts of life, like going to school or meeting new people, things that won't just give up and go away. So how does knowing all this help? Well, it starts with remembering what's really going on. There's nothing physically wrong with you. It's just your amygdala trying to tell you it thinks you're in danger, even if it gets confused about how much danger you're really in. Understanding why we feel anxiety is an important step in learning to manage it.
There we go. Okay, yes. I love that. Okay, so, okie dokie. Okay, so, yeah, the amygdala, right? That old part of the brain that kicks in that wants to protect you ultimately. So it's there for a reason, is as we learned that anxiety can be a good thing, but we just need to learn how to recognize it, and then we have to learn how to control it. So one of those methods is what we're going to be doing in this, just like taking a moment. So this page is what we're going to be exploring today, okay? So you practiced a few strategies shown. Okay, so if you've explored any parts of the game, you're gonna recognize that there's certain strategies that are there that can help you do this, like taking a moment. And that's simply just all that it is letting that amygdala kind of like recognize, okay, yeah, the amygdala is kicking up right now. And then we just like take a moment and just notice what is going on in that moment. And it's just focusing on the present rather than worrying about the future or thinking about the future or worrying about the past. So it's just kind of like just a moment where you just breathe and you just do something that is like hyper focused. And I'm really curious to see what type of like hyper focused activities you guys can generate to do this, to put in your back toolkit. And honestly, there's so many things in everyday life that are these like, you focus on the moment and that's all that you're doing. Like even today, I was like brushing my hair. I'm like, like kind of right now, I'm like taking a moment. I'm not thinking about anything else. I'm thinking how I can get this stupid knot undone in my hair. And then I'm just like focusing on that one thing. Or it's simply breathing. So like one of the strategies that you could include in this toolkit is like your 5-finger breathing. We breathe in, out, in, out, in, out, in, out, in, and out. And probably once you've done that, you're going to notice that your body actually feels a little bit different if you've allowed yourself time to do that. So the one that I wanted to show you guys today is, I just need to find it, is related to this making a glitter jar. Okay, so, and this is even cool. It says here, when kids or anyone is in an emotional state such as anger, fear, the amygdala's natural reaction is fight, flight, or freeze. So the response is to make which kicks in making a rational decision, making nearly impossible. So using a glitter jar can help the amygdala send information to the prefrontal cortex, which is the thinking part of the brain, right? That's like the newer developed part of the brain, which animals don't really have as much as humans do. So watching the glitter swirl to the bottom of the jar gives people time to calm down, regain control, and possess emotions for sensory input. So how to make them? Okay, so this is what we do. You need to get a jar, some clear glue, and then, I hope that white glue works. Distilled water, it says a hot glue gun, so you can just like seal the top so it doesn't leak out. And then some glitter and maybe some food coloring. So this is so then what you do is you just pour the water into a clean jar. So it shouldn't be tap water. It should be like distilled water. So something that you kind of more so get from, I guess, like a water cooler would probably even work. And then, or even if you like leave it out for a little bit, then it says to pour half a cup of clear glue. That's quite a bit. I guess it depends on the size of your jar. And then some sprinkles. Okay. And then you just fill it up and then you seal the jar. So, I have found some supplies. So I got an old like Starbucks Frappuccino thing and I've cleaned it out. So you could use anything like a water bottle. I think that glass might kind of create like a nicer effect inside than plastic, but I'm curious to see if plastic works also. And then I got some white glue. And then I found at the store, I got some sparkles because I don't have any craft supplies here. So I actually bought some. But maybe you guys have some type of supplies around your house that you could use for this. Yeah, so I'm gonna make this and then I'm gonna post it once I have made it. And the whole purpose is to just like have this and then you just like swirl it and then you just like watch the glitter kind of like calm down to the bottom. And that actually helps your brain. It's all these like weird, silly little tricks that seem simple, but it's nice to just build these things into our toolkit. So that is part of your moral education assignment for this week, is to think of how you can take a moment. And then next week, I was thinking that we could even have a Zoom for this instead, where everyone does a little show and tell of their different strategies for what you've done to allow that amygdala time to just like recognize it's there and then just create that space. Okay, so I hope that you kind of find something cool. There's lots of ideas in the game, or you can even just search like mindful moments, like what would you do? There's tons of things out there. Okay, so that's it for today.